It's the Super Bowl. There's going to be a lot of bets. But you think everybody out there understands how to do it and what everything means, and they don't. That's why we had our Betting 101 video that did so well. So now we're going to introduce Super Bowl Betting 101. For your newbies out there, maybe you want to get your feet wet, right? Feel dangerous but also safe. So we just want to explain the basics. If you're an expert, maybe you need a little bit of a refresher course, so we're going to give it to you. And we're going to start with the Chiefs-Eagles matchup and the spread, David Cohn. What is the spread on the game?
Yeah, and again, the three easiest things here that you're always going to see at the top: spread, total, and money line. So if you see spread right now, let's say Kansas City Chiefs minus 1.5, and then under that, minus 110. That means the Chiefs are favored by 1.5. So walk people through how you put money on that and what it means when you have a spread of minus 1.5.
Yes, and most of the spreads you are going to see, especially in football, are going to have that 0.5 on them, right? We call that the hook. Now, that doesn't mean Kansas City is expected to win 17.5 to 16. That's impossible. But what it does is it kind of separates the bets where one has to hit and one cannot hit. So, for example, Kansas City is minus 1.5, which means they are expected, if you want to bet on the Chiefs to win with that spread, they have to win by 2, not 1, because it's that half. So the Kansas City Chiefs would have to win by 2 if the spread was minus 1.5. If the Chiefs were minus 6.5, they would have to win by 7. In betting, minus is the favorite. It's kind of like golf. Minus is good. If you see a plus, like you would see for the Eagles, who are plus 1.5, they are the underdog, which means that they can still lose, but they have to lose by 1 or less. So if they lose by 2, all right, then you don't hit. If they lose by 3, then you don't hit. But if they lose by 1, because it's under that hook, under that half, and you got it at plus 1.5, that means you win. So minus favorite, plus is underdog, and then you mentioned, Coney, kind of walk them through before we get to Blaine, what the minus 110 and the odds are representing.
And again, if you have a minus by your odds, right, you're having to risk more money to win that amount of money. If you have a plus in front of it, that means it's an underdog bet. You get a little more value, but it's more risky. Vegas or the odds makers think that bet is less likely to hit. So let's just take what you said here. Eagles plus 1.5 on the points, right? We think the Chiefs are at least a point and a hook better than the Eagles are. So the money line on that is plus 105 Eagles, right? Because they're the underdogs in the game. Hey, I don't want to mess around with the spreads, and a lot of people don't, because the objective is to win a football game, not to cover a spread. So some people just say, I just want to bet on who's going to win the game. So you may be thinking, all right, if I think the Eagles are going to win a game, I might as well take them money line at plus 105 rather than even taking the extra 1.5 I could be offered, because I'm getting better value. Football is a game that usually works in 3s and 6s and 7s. I don't even want the 1.5 unless the spread were up so high that it was, say, 3.5, which covers you on a field goal and a hook.
That's exactly right. So money line, straight winner, as David Cohn said. Blaine, let's talk about the over-under, because there's some similarities and some things you're going to look at, but it's also different.
Well, it's somewhat the same way if you look at it when it comes to spreads. The over-under is the total amount of points that are going to get scored in this game. So right now, for doing the Super Bowl, the over-under is at 48.5 points. So you could bet the over, and the over would be they have to score 49 points for you to hit that bet. That's the only way.
Or more.
Or more.
49 or more.
49 or more. If they score anything, if they score 48, you do not hit that bet because of why? It's at 48.5. So anything under 48, if you bet the under and it hits, it hits. If it goes over, then you don't hit that. So the total will always be the amount of points that get scored in a football game. That is what the over and under is. And there's also minus bets and there's also plus bets when it comes to betting the over-unders. Say right now it came out and it was at 49.5, all right, and it was even money. Then it went to 50.5, and for you to bet that over 50.5, it's plus 110. So you would actually be betting an underdog, so you would win money. I believe right now the over-under is 48.5, and it's sitting at minus 110. So on both sides, so I think it's kind of evened out right
now. And if you look at either the spread, which is which team will win by this amount, or the total, which is the over-under, these amount of points will be scored combined, they will not always have the same odds underneath them, like Blaine was mentioning. And whenever you look up, if you look at the let's just use the total at 48.5, and you look and the over is minus 110 and the under is minus 110, you take 30 minutes, you go away, you come back and you log back in. Now all of a sudden it's still the same number, right? but the odds underneath the over for 48.5 are minus 112. And the odds for the under are minus 110 or 108 or whatever. What does that mean? That means that the money is getting bet heavier on the over to hit. And if enough money gets bet on the over, it will go from 48.5 to 49.5. If a lot of people start taking the under, it will go from 48.5 to 47.5. So if you see the odds are different for the over-under or even on the spread, that means the money is coming in on that side. But that does not guarantee that that's your best bet or that's a better bet to hit. That means some people are playing one side. And again, some people go with the public, some people go away from the public. So that's another thing as well.
Two more thoughts here. One for the point total over, one for the point total under. A lot of people like to see points get scored in football games, in basketball games, in whatever sport you're talking about. And so because they want to see a lot of points, especially when you get two high-powered offenses out there, they'll bet on the over. Well, like Jake said, that will drive up that line. That's why a lot of times the under is a good play. But another thing to think about when it comes to the under is overtime. If you got a close ball game, whether it's football, basketball, hockey, whatever, if it ends up being close and that goes to overtime, unless you went in and specifically got a tie at regulation or something like that, then overtime has a chance to score more points and your under will get busted.
Exactly. And we've talked about the basics, the fundamentals, right? The money line, which is picking the straight winner, Kansas City or the Eagles, straight up. It doesn't matter what the score is. If this team wins, you hit for that amount of odds. We talked about the total, the over and under, the combined amount of points scored, and then the spread. Which team will win by or which team is favored to win by a certain amount of points. But those are your basics. Let's for a second explain to the people what props are. You have player props. You have team props. You have game props. And because it's the Super Bowl, it's one of the most bet things in the sporting world, you basically can bet on anything. A ball to hit the crossbar on a field goal. Somebody to streak on the field. Travis Kelce proposes to Taylor Swift after the game. But we'll go over the basics. Basically, a prop is an individual bet, a player prop to a player. A team prop is an individual bet for a team. You may be saying, but Jake, if I take Kansas City to win by minus 1.5, that's an individual bet for the team. Yes, technically, but it's not a prop per se. A team prop would be, hey, Kansas City individually as a team, they think their over-under for their team total points is 23.5. So you can bet, forget what the Eagles score, forget who wins the game. You can take a solo bet on how many points just the Chiefs will score. Or that Travis Kelce will have over or under 75 receiving yards. That's a player prop. They're individually based, not smaller bets monetarily, but kind of more granular bets, whether it's by team or whether it's by player or whether it's by somebody will score a 2-point
First touchdown.
Or
First touchdown.
Why don't you go first touchdown?
Explain that,
You can get a prop. You can get a defensive prop where you think this guy's going to get a sack.
Yeah.
You know, there's the amount of props that are out there is absolutely ridiculous. There is a first touchdown betting prop to where whoever you think you can get great odds on this too. This is one of the best bets to get the best odds. Whoever you think is going to score the first touchdown, both teams, whether that's offense, defense, you can guess that person. But when it comes to props, most people bet rushing props, they bet receiving props, and they bet passing props. So right now, for Saquon Barkley's rushing prop for this game, it's at 110.5 yards. All right? So you can either bet the over on that or the under on that. Do you think Saquon Barkley is going to get more than 110 rushing yards? All right, you can go the same thing receiving. Right now, Travis Kelce is slated in his prop to have 60.5 receiving yards. So you can go in and bet, I think Travis is going to get more than that, or I think Travis is going to get less than that. And guys, it's not only the star players of the team. They will have everybody who has a question on whether or not going to catch a pass in there. I mean, you got DeAndre Hopkins, Saquon Barkley, Juju Smith-Schuster. Then you go to passing props, right? And you can do a lot of different things from passing props, from player touchdown passing to completion props. But right now, we're going to go through yardage, all right? So Patrick Mahomes' passing prop is right now at 250.5 yards. And this can change too, all right? People can bet on this, and this line can move. So you would bet whether or not you think Patrick can throw for more than 250 yards in this game. So you can take the over on that, and you can also take the under on that.
Definitely.
One of my favorites is the largest lead over and under. When I think, hey, this game's going to be close, right? I don't think one of these teams is really going to get out with a big lead over the other team. I'll take this, especially in a football game when it's over 14.5. Right now for the Super Bowl, it's at 13.5. I wouldn't be surprised if this goes up. And again, that's a huge difference between 13.5 and 14.5. At 14.5, if you take the under on the largest lead, that means you're protected. If one team goes up on the other by 2 touchdowns, you're still good. But remember, one team goes up on the other by 17 points and the other team comes back and only loses by 3, you still lost that bet.
Yep. And one of my favorite things, and kind of the last thing we want to highlight here, because this is 101, is the live betting. Let's say that you decided to take the Chiefs minus 1.5 before the game. And it's halfway through the first quarter and the Chiefs are already down 14-0. And maybe you're like, oh man, well now I can't make up for that bet. And again, bet with what you can afford to lose. Be responsible. It's just like anything. Live betting is just as much fun to me as betting before the game. You can literally bet these similar numbers or the props and you know the score, the spread and the totals during the game as the game is going. Almost to the point you brought up the first touchdown score. You can bet who's going to score the next touchdown. You can bet what's going to happen on this drive before the drive starts. Will it be a punt? Will it be a made field goal, a missed field goal, a touchdown, or whatever? So the live betting is even more, you know, in real time. You got to do it fast because the lines will move really, really quickly, especially if you're trying to do it mid-drive. But that's another way to kind of keep the game fun, even if the bets you made earlier aren't hitting.
Yep.
We
I
love
agree.
live betting.
Yeah.
All right. Make sure you check out 102. Going to keep giving you the goods. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Bet responsibly. Drink responsibly. And watch sports content responsibly, which means Crain & Company. All right, guys. Now you are prepared on how to bet the Super Bowl. May have been basic for some, Coney, but they needed to hear it. We need to get the basics.
Had to hear it. Had to hear it. Sometimes keep it simple, stupid is what they say.
That's exactly right. So good luck to you, and don't forget, we have the live stream this Sunday, the Super Bowl, Mission Cigar and Social. Be there or be lame. Hey, what's up, YouTube? Do us a favor, man. Please hit that subscribe button. We really, really appreciate it. We're going to live stream the Super Bowl from Mission Cigar and Social. Do not miss it. They're always a lot of fun.